How are we doing, everybody, and welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today we're talking about something that I don't usually do, and we're talking about how the backswing should feel. The main reason, right, and I get a lot of questions and comments coming to the channel as to how things should feel. The main reason why I struggle is because all of the information that I put onto the YouTube channel is generic information that every golfer can learn from, right? Whether you're somebody who swings upright, whether you're somebody who's flat. You know, I even talk about for people that have got physical limitations, what you should be careful of in your golf swing. It's very much an educational platform, this channel is, to make sure that every time you watch it, if you wanted to, you could watch every video every day and still learn something. Nothing is ever going to contradict something else. So when it starts to come for feelings, hence the difficulty a little bit. What I am happy to talk about is because I think that one of the biggest misconceptions with most amateur golfers that they struggle with is that we get told this story about making sure that we swing the club on plane and we drop the club down and you hit from the inside. And that information is absolutely true, right? There's no denying, you can't deny with the physics as to how the club is supposed to work on the arc. But the problem with it is that how you swing the club on plane, you know, and how you drop the club down is to do with mainly a separatory movement, right? So it's mainly to do with the fact that if you can separate your upper and lower body, stops you doing things like coming over the top. Yes, you can get the elbow working down towards your side of your hip to help you facilitate keeping the club on plane as well. But my point is that if this is the direction where I'm going, and I'm just going to place a cane down to represent as best I can for you guys the target line, I suppose what I try and suggest to people is that if the club shaft traces a line through the target line, that basically means you're keeping the club on plane, and it basically means the club head will work on an arc of in to square to in, if you like, and it will help you hit the golf ball straight. We're not going to talk about the idea of hitting down on the ball and offering any sort of complication into that at this moment in time, but yes, that starts to play a slightly different factor. But the bigger problem that I tend to see is that golfers feel like they've got to hit it from in here. And the thing is, if you hit it in here and you start flipping your wrist, you can hit the ball straight, but the problem is you're never going to compress it. And I think the other problem is when you become so focused on trying to come on from this inside, it always encourages an early hip extension. You know, the idea of, oh, I've got to drop the club on the inside and really move this way and then roll your hands over at it. You know, that's a really big problem because you're educating your body to always move this way when it really should be rotating. So therefore, what happens also in the backswing position is that golfers are kind of, you know, feel like, oh, I'll get behind the ball, right? As long as I get behind the ball, I can come from the inside and hit the ball. But again, hopefully, if you've been watching enough of the kind of information on here, if you don't understand how to load correctly, all that will happen is that if you turn, see the way my pelvis starts to drift, you know, my shoulders will be forced to work on a more horizontal axis because the backswing is not really about that at all. So how would a backswing feel? And the reason why I'm happy to talk about it is because I think it would genuinely feel, from the feedback I have of the customers that I've been teaching over the years, is one, it will feel different, obviously, it depends how close you are to where you need to be. And the second thing is it will feel like you're going to swing over the top. You know, there's no doubt about that. So what I'm kind of talking about is the idea would be in the backswing position that you would kind of create a tilt of the shoulders. That would be the first move, right? And that would feel quite different in itself, especially for golfers that are so accustomed to moving this way and moving the head behind the ball. What would start to happen though is that as you allow the pelvis to turn in towards the leg, and if you're unfamiliar with some of the drills I've put on, just so you quickly understand what I'm going on about, the idea should be that you turn the pelvis in towards the leg on the backswing position, okay? So the idea would be that as soon as I take the club back, I'd start to create things like a tilt on the upper body, and then I'd be trying to feel like, as you can see, my kind of belt buckle starts to turn in towards my leg on the way back. Now what will happen is that, you know, let's kind of fast track it and say I'm at left arm horizontal. Well, what you can kind of see is if I do this slowly up to this point, is the way that I stay very centered in terms of my head position. You can see the way my shoulders are still kind of pointing in this sort of direction over here. So it's not like I'm creating a huge amount of rotation very early. And then you can also see the way the upper part of my leg stays very much forward facing. It stays very flexed, but the pelvis is still rotating into the hip, which basically means from this position, I feel very early on in my backswing that I am getting weight in towards my heel, okay? Now, from the side-on perspective, other things that I've talked about recently on the channel is understanding how your obliques would work and, if you like, how the rib cage would function. And again, for a golfer who kind of would move very much the head off the ball, you'd kind of go into a side crunch this way on the way back, when actually your feeling should be that this kind of rib cage is rising up. So from the side-on perspective, again, what you can start to see is that as I take my posture, there's like a tilting action which helps me keep the club on plane. I turn my pelvis in towards that side, which means I'm putting pressure underneath it and I'm getting activation in this area. And by the time I'm at left arm horizontal, I still retain my height, right? Some golfers will lose a bit, depends how much of a bend you create. But you know, I can start to feel an element of activation here. But my point is as I finish my backswing position, you should feel very much over the golf ball. And I've talked about this. This would be applicable for your driver as well. You should feel over the ball at the top of the backswing position. And it should feel like you're going to swing over the top. And the thing, like I said earlier, the thing that stops you swinging over the top from this position is the separation. You know, if I don't separate and everything works at the same rate of rotation, I will swing over the top and I'm going to struggle with an out-to-in swing path. If I can separate, it basically means then my arms can drop down because they're working at a secondary rate of rotation and it helps me swing the club on plane. As I've talked for our less flexible golfers, and this really is only relatable, not if you feel like you're a bit stiff in the morning. This is relatable if you have like a spinal problem, like a fused spine or you know, a deterioration of the spine, then you can't separate, right? Which basically means you can't do what I've just discussed. And that would mean then, yes, this golfer would want to drop the elbow down, but you'd still want to be turning in the same manner. You don't want to be moving this way. So I think that the point of this video is that how it feels in the backswing position. I think it would feel for the majority of golfers, you know, that send the swings into the channel, and for the majority of golfers that I get the opportunity to work with, and the majority of golfers that put comments into the box below about feedback as to what's helping them and what is new and different. Yeah, I would feel like you're going to swing over the top. I think if you get in this backswing correctly, you should feel like, wow, I'm much more over the ball. You're much more in posture over the ball. Head would feel like it hasn't moved. And then from there, you would feel like you're going to be vulnerable of swinging this way. But that's the right sort of feeling to be able to have the ability to hit the golf ball really well. And from this perspective, it's the same. You should feel over the ball. And then from there, yeah, you might feel again, oh my God, it's going to come over the top. But, you know, it's the shaft angle, you know. It's the shaft angle that's important, not the feeling of worried of this. And I think this is why most golfers tend to get their arms stuck to the side of them, because they're fearful of swinging over the top. The problem is, and what we're going to talk about very soon on the channel, and what I'm trying to put together as best as I can, is when we start talking about the ball flights. See, the ball flights can be incredibly misleading, because for a golfer who comes under plane and then they flip at it, the ball can go left, but it goes left because of the flip. And it's very easy then to start associating you've come over the top. And then as soon as you get the wrong idea, it becomes a mess. But we're going to talk about that in more detail very soon. The idea is, I suppose, that if you're doing the exercises and it starts to feel different and you can relate to what I've talked about today, then happy days. You know, if you can't relate to it, then it's probably because you're still stuck a little bit maybe in your comfort zone a little bit too much and comfortable this way with your early hip extension, etc. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always appreciate a thumbs up, and remember, it's absolutely free to send the swings into the channel, right? My social media pages are in the description below. I basically annotate over them, I give you some pointers, and I republish them back onto the social media pages as soon as I can, right? Loads of golfers taking the opportunity to do that, so why not? Remember, it's also free to press that subscribe button. And if you're going to press the subscribe button, you might as well press the little bell icon, because it means you'll receive notifications every time a new video comes out, which is pretty much on a daily basis. See you soon.